It's Tuesday, May 23rd. This is a pre-opening SPY report about a little over an hour to go before the market opens. I've been away for the last 3 trading sessions, so I'll kind of recap what developed there and what's kind of unfolding now. You can see here in the last 3 days, the market, as expected when I left, continued higher here on Thursday, reached a key inflection point target, and it looks like we paused a little bit on Friday and then paused a little bit yesterday, which is not surprising. The big question is, well, first of all, I had been talking about for a long time that there's this big range in here on the daily chart. We reached the bottom of this range twice and failed, so eventually we were going to likely test the top of the range, and that's what happened on Thursday. I was anticipating that, and you can see here on the weekly chart, after failing at the bottom of a range a couple of times, we eventually worked to the top of the range. The key was going to be, since we had this inside bar the week before, was this going to be just a move to the top of the range and immediately fail and come all the way back through, or are we going to come to the top of the range and strongly continue, or as what's happening now, we come to the top of the range, we pause at an inflection point, and we have to now decide whether this is just a pause and we continue higher, or is this a kind of a failure area. And given the fact that price really looks like it's just pausing up here at the moment. It looks more that it's just a pause before continuing to a higher level here, which on the you can see here on the weekly chart and the monthly chart. In a second I can show you. If we can just hold this area, then we're likely heading up here to this red line, which is the 431 area. So again, the monthly chart, what's developing here is you have the outside bar on the month. We have a little while to go before the month ends, so we're going to have to, that's just a 3 bar, so that's just broadening action. We could come down and be choppy within this area. The big signal is going to be really 2 months from now. Do we get a 3, like 2 up, 2 down? Do we get a 3 1 month into June, and then a kind of a breakout up or down? So there's no actionable signal on this chart other than the fact it's just green and heading higher. But sometimes you get if we close strong with this month, which we don't know yet, we can get a 3-2 continuation. On the weekly chart, again, we have the big green bar from last week that hit a key inflection point. You kind of look at this bar, since it's pretty solidly green, and expect the highs to be tested. So we haven't done that the first 2 days, well, did we take out? No, we didn't. I mean, today's the first day. Monday was yesterday and didn't reach this high yet. So you kind of expect when you see a big green weekly bar to test that high. We'll see if that happens. But today in the morning, it looks like we're gapping down a little bit. But what's happening here is you have this kind of trading range in here temporarily near the highs. I could see taking out all these stops. We're in a fair value gap on the daily chart. So this could be an area to kind of take out some stops down here, hold in this area. That would be a sign you're holding this break, the inside bar, that you're not failing up here. In other words, as long as we kind of hold this daily fair value gap and eventually continue higher. But structure-wise, we're going to have to kind of, if we start lower, we're going to have to come back up through the intraday high and through the midpoint of yesterday, which is kind of the open of the week. That's what I've just marked here with the green. The yellow, well, it's a yellow line on this chart. I marked the open of the week, so, I made it a green line. So we're going to have to get back above here to have that weekly chart back to green. So we'll see if we kind of take out those stops and then come back through the open of the week and the midpoint of yesterday. That would be the sign to go long today. Other than that, we might have to see maybe, if we're going to fail in this area, which is always possible because we're at a key inflection point, again, reaching the high of that range on the daily chart. Daily chart here, we reach the high. It's possible we do fail up here and come all the way back through, so you never know. So given the weak opening, you might, and if we don't bounce from this area, we might have to play the short side and just see in terms of taking out this fair value gap, if that holds or not. If not, maybe we get a big red day developing in the week's red. So I guess the bottom line is, we have to play the downside here to start, seeing how that first bar opens. If we can hold in this area, that'll be a good sign we're taking out the high last week. If we continue lower and we can't really hold in this fair value gap, maybe we're going to start really failing up here. And the reason you fail up here is because you took out the high of a key. You're making lower lows here, higher highs, and maybe we come all the way back through. But that's what I'm kind of monitoring for as this week unfolds. If we just can't really follow through to the downside, then expect some kind of a stronger up move to take out the high of the previous week and some of those higher time frame targets. In terms of trading the last 3 days, I could see here on the 15-minute chart, once we expected higher to reach this green line, the 418 area, there was a great trade here on Thursday to kind of take it out, but it was just kind of a morning move. Then we came down, kind of held the midpoint of the first bar and went all the way up strong near the end of the day, but you wouldn't have been able to easily catch that. This was the easy move, to just know you're heading to that green line eventually, and you have a nice little first bar pause breakout here on bar number 3. That would have been a good trade on Thursday. I can see on Friday, you just kind of held in here in the first bar, never really broke up about that first bar high. You're kind of at exhaustion risk. You're at a key area that's an inflection point, and the market decided to go down instead. So you could have played a very short-term, breakout here to the downside somewhere in this area and scalped a little bit. And then yesterday, again, we didn't get anything. We got kind of a big opening, but then price kind of just held pretty much all session long within that opening. So it was no real easy trading to figure out on this yesterday. And you can see it was a pretty big pause day. So anyway, we're starting lower today. It's a pretty long recap, but I think Thursday was the only real easy day to trade last week to the upside, reached the key target. So now the key thing is we're determining, are we just pausing here, getting ready to head up to the 430 area, or are we failing in this area? That's kind of the big picture question. I suspect it looks more of a pause at the moment, but that's going to require a little bit of a pullback first. So in terms of then, how we pull back, that's going to determine whether it's really a pause or a potential failure. But I could see maybe trying the downside today is all going to depend how we take out these lows. And early in the session, do we follow through lower, or do we hold in here and maybe then get above the green line, which is the open of the week, and start moving towards the weekly, the weekly high of last week and those bigger picture targets near the 430 area.